Hello everyone. Today we talk about Python objects and classes in a little more detail. So as you know, Python is an object-oriented programming language, and here the emphasis is on functions and data contained within the body of the object itself. So let's take a look at how we can define a class in Python. Now before we do that, understand the difference between a class and an object. A class is more like a blueprint, so you have all the details on how something is to be constructed out of it. An object is the actual construct itself. So if you have a blueprint of a house, that could be called a class, but when you actually go and build the house, then that would be an object. So from a single blueprint, which is the class, you can build multiple objects. So the basic syntax of creating a class is something like this. Give it the keyword class, then you pass the name of the class and then the body of the class. It is a convention to have the class name beginning with a capital letter. Unlike other variables in Python or function names where you begin with a lowercase letter, you conventionally start a class name with the uppercase letter. Now the first thing inside a class is usually called a docstring, which is a sort of description of the class. It's not mandatory, but it's a good idea to have it there. When you create a class, you're also creating a local namespace. So anything within the class, all the functions or all the attributes that you add within the class are going to be accessible to you via the namespace of that particular class. Let's actually define a class now. So here we have a class which we're going to call a person, and then say this is a person class, age is equal to 10, which is our attribute. Any data that you define or any variable you define within a class is called an attribute. We also have a function within a class. So this is a function called greet, and we're going to print hello as part of this function. Now here's a slight distinction to be made. When you define a function within a class and you access it from outside, then you call it a method, and a method can only belong to or to be called by a particular object belonging to that class. So you cannot call greet function using an object which belongs to a different class. It has to be an object belonging to a person class. But before we instantiate an object in a class person, let us just run a few commands here and see. So when I run this cell of code, it's going to first create a class for me, and then using the class person, I'm going to refer to the attribute age of that class. So here we have defined age as 10. So this is a sort of a default setting or an initialization. So when we call person.age, the dot separator is the one which we are using to reference the age attribute of the class person. Then we get the outcome 10, which represents the value that is present over here. We can also call person.greet. Now here we are not actually calling the function. So when we print person.greet, we only get this particular output that this represents a function, and it's present at this location in the memory. And finally, we call the docstring using the $doc_ function. This is inbuilt into Python. These are called special functions or dunder functions. The dunder stands for $_, also called magic functions, and they allow us to do a lot of things in Python. So we have not specifically defined a $_doc_ function, but this is taken by Python by default. So when we call this function, this docstring is going to be printed out. So this is the basic structure of a class. Now let's see, once you have a class, how can you create an object of that class? So object is created very easily simply by calling that class with a constructor. Let's say we want to create an object Harry. So the object has to be given a name, and that Harry is to be an object of the class person. So we say Harry is equal to person and then followed by these parentheses. These can be used to pass any attributes to this class. So for example, if we want to say Harry has a particular age, we might choose to pass it here now, or we can just call it without any arguments. This is going to create a new object instance named Harry, and then we can use all the methods and attributes of the class and get access to them through the Harry object. Let's see how it works. So we are just putting the code together. We've already defined the class in the upper segment, but we can do it again here, and then say Harry is a person an object of the class person. Once you've done that, we can always say Harry dot greet, and in this case what's going to happen is we're going to use the object Harry and invoke or call the function greet. Let's run these cells and take a look. So when we printed person.greet, it was just giving us information about the greet method within the person class. So this, like we saw previously also, this is what the outcome was. But when we printed Harry.greet, we got a specific instance here. So as you can see, the location here and the location here, this is different, because this time now we are calling greet using a specific object Harry. We have still not called the function actually, we're just getting the identification details of the function greet as reference to the object Harry. It's bound to Harry now. Here in this last line, we are actually calling the function because the double parentheses are needed to call a function. So when we say Harry.greet and double parentheses, now we are calling the function. So this is going to go up here, and within the object Harry, it's going to find this function and print hello for us, which is what it does here. So all functions in the last line here, that is, all functions and all attributes that are part of a class are available to every object of that class. So by default, when we create a person, we create an object Harry of a class person, then everything is available to Harry also. Now let's move on and talk about constructors in Python. So as you saw in the previous example, when we were creating an object Harry, we were not passing any arguments to the class. We were just saying Harry is equal to person and parentheses. But we can have constructors where we can define what's going on. So let's assume we have a class here. We are going to call it complex number. We're going to create this class complex number, and we are going to have a init variable within it. So this init function is an initializer function. It can remain empty or it can be undefined as we did in the previous class. But if we do define what goes inside it, then we are defining what are the initializing parameters here. So in this init function, we are going to say self r is equal to 0 and I is equal to 0. Now self is really important because whenever we are instantiating an object, this object itself becomes the first argument passed to a function when we invoke a function that belongs to a class. This is a little difficult to understand. I'll explain it a little more in detail, but remember that this self is important when you are describing, when you are defining a function within a class. I'll go back up and show it to you. When we defined the function hello, we also used the self thing here, because when we called Harry.greet and we call the function, greet has to know where it's being called from. So Harry is the point where it's being called from. So by default, Harry is going to be passed first. So therefore this self always has to come here. It has to know to expect the object which is calling it. Let's come back to our class complex number. Now in the initialization function here, we are defining self.real. So whatever object is going to call this, when we instantiate an object, then that object is going to get an attribute called real, which is going to be defined as r, and going to get an attribute called imaginary or imag, which is going to be the I variable. And we are going to pass these two attributes. We're going to pass the values using these two. So let's see it in action first. Okay, so this is the initializer, and the second function is get data, where it's going to print out something. I'll come to this part later, but let me just run this cell. Now once we have run this cell and we have created an object num1, which is an object of the class complex number, and we're going to pass 2 and 3 to it. So what's happening here? Let's understand this line. Num1 is the one variable name. We are going to assign that variable name to an object. And what kind of object? An object of the class complex number. Now we are passing 2 and 3. So where do these two go? Because this is happening at the time we are instantiating an object, these two will go directly into the initializer. When they go into the initializer, because these are positional arguments, r gets, instead of 0, which was default, it gets the value 2 and I gets the value of 3. Had we not given these values, they would have still been initialized, but they would have taken the default values, which were 0 and 0. Now in this case, we have given it 2 and 3. So real gets the value 2 and image gets the value 3. So when we now try to print out these values, we're going to get the 2 and 3 outcomes. Let's come to this function where we actually get to print out the values. Now once again, when we're going to get data, this is the function or the method that's going to be called, and we're going to call it something like this: num1.getData. So we're going to call it from outside the class definition. We already have an object called num1, and we are using this object to call the method getData of this class. So when we initialized num1, we had given it 2 and 3. Now we are getting the method here, getData. We are calling this method. So what's going to happen here? Let's see. We say num1.getData. So the first thing that is going to be passed into this function call is num1 itself. So when it goes here, it says, okay, get data, but what data? Data from the object num1, which has been passed. So alright, we're going to look at num1's data now. We're going to print num1 because self has now taken a value num1, remember? So num1's real, which for num1 we know is going to be r, which was 2. So it's going to say num1's real is 2. So this whole thing, self.real, is going to evaluate to 2. Self.image is likewise going to evaluate to 3. And then j is going to be added behind it. So this is going to be the outcome. 2 plus 3j. Right? Next. So we have covered this line and we have covered this line. Now let's see what's happening here. Here we're going to create a num2, which is a different object of the same class, and we are only giving it one single parameter 5. So being a positional parameter attribute, it goes into r is equal to 5 now, because this is the first one passed. I still remains at 0 because we have not given it anything. So this is what this line is achieving. It's creating a new object num2 of the complex number class, and it's giving a real value of 5 to it, but no imaginary value. Next, what we do, we already have the object. So we say num.attr is equal to 10. So here we are doing something very interesting. We are creating a new attribute within the num2 class and passing it a value 10. Now attr doesn't exist within the class definition. We have not defined it anywhere. But by using the object, we can define it because the object gives it the namespace. So this whole variable is going to be stored within the namespace that belongs to the object num2. What can we do with it? Let's see. Let's try to print out these couple of things and see what happens. We said num2.real. So can you guess what the value will be? It will be 5 because this is the value we passed. num2.image is going to be 0. It's going to be the default value because when we were creating the object, we did not give it any value for image. So we got 5 here and num2.image is equal to 0 here. What about num2.attr? We're going to get a value. We say 5, 0 and 10. And this value exists because we had assigned it over here. What happens when we try to get the same value out of num1? We get an error report. And the reason we get an error report is that we never defined the attr value for num1 and it does not exist in the class definition. So in general, it's a bad idea to define values like this because they do not belong to the class by themselves. Much better would be to have either this attr variable within the class or to have a variable outside the space of num2, so it can be accessed by other functions as well as and when required. Once you are giving it within the namespace, only the num2 namespace has this, and so no other object of the complex number class is going to have access to this. So we get the attribute error here, as you can see. Now, how about deleting attributes and objects? Now Python has a very handy function called del, which stands for delete, and it can be used to delete anything as long as you can give a reference to it. If you can tell Python where that thing is, Python can delete it. So for example, we instantiate a num1 variable, an object of the class complex number, and we instantiate it using 2 and 3. So we know 2 is going to go to the real component, 3 is going to go to the imaginary component. But after this, we just say del num1 image. So what happens is, we created one, but then we deleted it. And now deleting it is also going to delete all reference to it. So even the default parameter that image is equal to 0 is not going to exist. So once we pass, let's run the cell. Once we try to get data, we're going to get an error because get data is a method that's going to require us to get this value, and this image variable is no longer existing now for the num1 object. If we do it for a num2 object, it will still exist, but within this namespace we have deleted all references to the variable. Therefore the get data function is also going to suffer. So once again, it's a bad idea to do this in general, but you have to know that this can happen, so be very careful when you're using the delete function. Now you can also delete a whole let's see, you can delete a whole method within the class. So we deleted from within the class the whole function itself. Now this time the error is still there. We got an error here and we're getting an error here, but the nature of the error is different. Here we were not able to find an attribute image. Here we are not able to find the whole function or the whole method itself because we deleted the whole method. Now we are deleting it from the class. Therefore every other object that's trying to get hold of this method is also going to end up with an error report. So whether we say num1.getData or num2.getData, we're going to result in an error because the class itself does not have this method anymore. And finally we can even get rid of the class or the object. So we say C1 is equal to an object of the class complex number. We created an object, but then we deleted C1, and then if we try to print C1, we get an error. So behind the scene what's happening is that objects are created, functions or methods are created, and Python allots the variable number that you have assigned, so variable name that you have assigned. So C1 was a variable name that was given to the object. Python assigned it to an object that it created. When we say delete, it just cuts the connection, it severs the connection. So then C1 is something which does not have any assigned value. However, the object continues to exist for a while in Python memory till the time something called a garbage collector comes along, and then it gets hold of all the unreferenced objects or values in Python and then it deletes them. It does it periodically, and that makes for better memory management, and this is very similar to the way that garbage collection works in Java. You can also manually invoke it, the garbage collector, but that's a topic for another day. I hope you enjoyed this session on objects and classes. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.